Hey, what's up, comrades? How's it going? Today we're going to talk about, what is the Prima Donna? That's what it is. The Prima Donna crew, which is Volume, Noise, and Aria. Obviously, they're sound-based characters. One's a rapper, one's a pop singer, and one's a classical artist, who we're going to start with, which is Aria in this Bond story. Then we're going to get to First Affection. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Which is, so every year they do a popularity poll for Nikke's, and the first year it was Marion who won, or Modernia, and so we're going to do her First Affection story, which is like her, it's not like an event per se, it's they call it something else. It's like the New Year's Eve stuff, or not the New Year's, the April Fool's stories are not considered events, they're considered like, I don't know, they call them something else in the side of the game. Anyway, it's one of those, and then we will talk about Modernia finally. We'll do her Bond story after that, because I think it takes place after First Affection, if I remember correctly. If not, we'll do it before First Affection, so I gotta look that up. Anyways, let's get to Aria. So Aria, as I mentioned, is an opera singer. She's called us one day to the opera house. So we head over there, and then we get accosted by security, who's like, what are you doing here? And we're like, we're here because Aria called us for it. And they're like, prove it. And we're like, what? And finally Aria's like, let them in. And so we head in and start talking to her. And when we get in there, all the ladies are like, holy shit, there's a lot of like cool stuff here, like costumes and makeup and everything. And Aria's like, yeah, go do whatever you want to do. And so Neon and Ainz drag Rappy off to do a makeover to her chagrin. And we start talking to Aria, and she's like, I got a problem I need help with. And you're like, shoot, go for it, girl. This is what I do. And she's like, I sing too good. And you're like, is that a problem? It's it's a problem because like in this opera that she's doing, the person she's playing is supposed to be like a struggling singer, like not very good at it. But Aria is so good at it that all anyone notices is going to notice, excuse me, it's how good of a singer she is. And they're not going to understand like the true meaning of the story. And it's going to ruin the opera because they're like, why? I can't understand why this character is acting like this. And so then we're like, hey, we're going to go work with Aria on some stuff. And the Neon Nines are like, okay, we're not done with Rappy. Bye. The next day, we watch Aria sing, and she is good. Real fucking good. And she talks about how she needs to be worse, but not bad, which is difficult because she can sing badly, like on purpose, but then she's singing badly. But she needs to be able to sing like somebody who's struggling at singing, not somebody who's just bad at singing. And so we like, well, hey, how about we'll sing the part, and then you can see how, because we're bad at singing. So we sing, and she mentions that it's truly awful, but it gave her some ideas that she can try. So at some point, she starts comparing the relationship between us and her as similar to the characters in the opera she's doing. So I think it's Rebecca, if I remember correctly, is who she's supposed to be, and she has like a guardian, and so we're like that guardian who's like watching over her and trying to help her, and so it's very much similar to that, which is like a motif, if you will, for this story. And she's like, so I think it'd be helpful, I'm going to have you sit in a box seat near like where I'm supposed to be singing at, because that's supposed to be where the guardian's at when I sing my parts, and therefore that should be helpful for me to like not sing so good. And so we go up there and we do that, and we watch her performance. After the show, everyone loved Aria's performance. She is the best singer. It was amazing. However, the rest of the opera was trash. And this is exactly what Aria feared. She was like, I did it again. I'm too good. People are so enraptured by my singing that they can't take the play or the opera seriously because the lady's not supposed to be good. And because they are missing the whole point of the story, because Aria is so good at singing, sorry, this whole story is so ridiculous, that it's ruining the opera for everybody. And it's not like anybody's fault but her own. And so she feels really guilty about it. Later on, back at the outpost, we discuss this with the counters, and we're trying to figure out what to do. Finally, Ian suggests that we take her to a dive bar that she knows about, because it's just full of drunks. And drunks don't give a fuck about opera. So she'll be like booed, and it'll like help her appreciate what it's like, instead of just being praised all the time, to know what it's like to be like in someone else's shoes, I guess. And we're like, I don't know about that. But right then, Aria like steps in, and she's like, I heard everything. Let's go do it. And we're like, okay, so we do. So we take her over to the bar, and we talk to the owner, and he's like, whatever, I don't have to pay you, go nuts. And we're like, hooray. And there's no one else singing. So Aria starts to sing, and the crowd immediately starts booing her, and they tell her to strip and dance instead. She perseveres though, and finally they start like listening, and the heckling slows down and then stops. And then we help because we sing the part that the Guardian is supposed to be singing, which kind of brings it all together. After the performance, And a bit later on, the owner's like, hey, you guys sure don't want to come back and sing again? Everyone seemed to really appreciate it at the end of the day, even if they were kind of acting like assholes. And they're like, no, thanks. She's going to work at an opera house forever under Tetra. But Aria is like, you know what though? Both of you really helped me understand what it's like to be from to sing from like someone else's perspective, which is going to help me do what I need to do to perform. So then we head back over to the opera house. And during the first show was a disaster because she was singing so good. So then we're there for the next performance with the counters, and we're watching from the sidelines. And Aria crushes it, but not just crushes it as in sings great, crushes it as in nails the role perfectly. And so later on, we're hanging out with Aria back at our place, and we're watching the news broadcast with her. And everyone's talking about how she melded everything perfectly, how it was an excellent performance, how the opera is outstanding, all this good stuff. And then she mentions to us that we helped her understand not just how to do her part, but understood what love is and how to love, as well as other people's perspectives. And understanding love and other people's perspectives helped her understand how to meld the singing. So it wasn't bad singing, but it was like appropriate for the character. She then sings us a song, "Aw," about love. Aw. And that ends her Bond story. So next up is Volume. She's a hot-headed rapper chick. And in fact, the Bond story starts off with us sitting around the counters watching her. Like, there's like an expose or a news report or something, and like her whole public relations thing is like a mess. She fights with managers, she fights with the crowd. Her music's fantastic, she's good at rapping, so she's very popular still, but there's starting to be some more issues and whatnot. At that point, Mustang gives us a call, and he's like, hey, buddy, can you help Volume with her, like, managing her public relations and like being her manager, because the last manager quit again. So we head over to her show. She's like smashing guitars that don't belong to her, throwing things at the audience, like going crazy or whatnot. And then we approach her and we're like, hey, we're at the government, we're here to help. Anyway, she laughs at us. It is like, good luck. Later on, we're with Volume while she's like tearing into a backup singer, because the backup singer made some comment to somebody about how Volume slept her way to the top, and this chick is like just getting turned into, where she's like crying and all this stuff, and then she throws a beer can at her. Volume does, and so but we step in the way and take the beer can, and then she gets mad about that, and we're like, hey, you got to stop taking her anger out on stuff and just kind of deal with it like a normal person. And she's like, fuck no, in fact, cancel my appearance on like the Late Show later on. And we're like, no, you got to keep doing, and you got to make, public relations, this is part of being management or whatever. And this was a total mistake. She gets there, she starts fighting with that guy, she's about to attack him, we jump in the way, we get knocked the fuck out, and then we had to wake up later in the hospital with the counters taking care of us, and we're like, where's Volume? And she's like, I'm here outside. And we're like, hey, you got to go apologize to this guy. And she's like, I don't want to. And it's like, hey, we still need to work on your image. And she's like, you still want to help me? Why? And we're like, because we're a manager. It's very anime-ish. I love it. So then we were like talk about doing another interview, but they refuse to do their interview, and she doesn't want to do it anyway. We head over to Tetra to like do some recording stuff. She gets attacked by like anti-fans or whatever, and we block them from attacking her, and so we get pelted. And we're like, hey, you should really like do an apology. You can do like a live one, or it can be like a written one or something. And she's like, no, go fuck yourself. Instead, I want to hold a giant concert, the biggest one ever. So we set all that up, and we're at the concert hall, and we're like very nervous, concerned that no one's going to show up because so many people hate her because she's an asshole. But then she's like, nah, I'm not worried about it. And then we find out from like an assistant that like, oh, the crowd she sold out this concert in like 5 seconds. And it's like, the fuck. And so she does a show, but she apparently had to change the heart, because now she's like bantering with the crowd and putting on a show and not throwing things and smashing things and fighting people or whatever. And so, hey, we succeeded somehow by accident. Okay. Later on, we're hanging out, and we start hearing rumors that Volume and I are dating, or Volume and us are dating. And people are like trying to harass us, and there's all this like calls and people on interviews and stuff. And so we skirt around all that to go talk to her, and she's like, oh yeah, I started that rumor because I figured, fuck it, why not? I think you're hot. And we're like, oh, okay, well, then I posted this, which kind of surprises her. She's like, really? And she's like, and we're like, nope, we can date. That sounds good. And she's like, excellent, let's speed run this thing by having sex. And that's the end of our Bond story. Fucking Volume. So now we head over to Noise, and what's Noise's deal? She's a pop singer, so we got Aria's an opera singer, obviously, and then Volume's a rapper. Okie dokie. And then Noise is the pop singer. So she's got a new hit single. It's number 1 on the ARC charts or whatever. And so she's on one of those late night shows talking to whoever about it. And then a few days later, she comes to us. She needs help. She's all stressed out about writing a new single since her last one was such a hit, and she doesn't know how she can follow up. And of course, when she talked about this with Mustang told her that she should reach out to us as we already helped Volume and Aria. So she shows us the song, we listen to it, make some commentary talking about how we don't really know much about music, but that like yada yada yada, this is what we feel about it. And then she gets super mad about that. And then we talk about it and we're like, all right, well, give us a week to prepare to like understand like what we're getting ourselves into first, and then we'll help you out. So we go talk to Ainz about it, because Ainz is a secret pop singer. But so she's like, oh, watch these videos, it'll help you be a better producer. So we spent a whole week just like watching these videos, locked in our room. And then finally, like at some point, like we haven't come out of our room in days, Rappy and Neon start questioning what's going on. And Ainz is like, no, it's cool, this is what's going on, he's fine, don't worry about it. And they're like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, trust me, bro. Anyway, at some point we like stumble out and we demand to see like Noise-chan. And then Ainz is like very confused about this whole situation. And so she checks out the videos that she sent for us to watch, and they end up being like American Idol essentially. And she's like, I don't know if that was the best decision, but it's done. So a bit later, Noise comes and she shows up. We have a whole batch of terrible videos. We talk about using the word wonder in every one of her sentences. Let's see what else. Calling her wonder. Yeah. And just kind of like how she can do different things to like get her image up, because her image needs to be improved because she's seen as kind of like aloof and whatnot. We talk about this more, and then she finally agrees that she'll give it a shot, right? Because she needs something to kind of get her out of her slump and to kind of help her. So we set up like a surprise meet and greet in some street, and for a while nobody shows up, and then finally we like are yelling at people to come and be like, hey, look, Noise is here, the singer of Diva, she wants to meet her fans and whatnot. And finally, like one of her fans, her super fans, is like walking by and he's like, wait, is that really Noise? And we're like, you betcha. And so they come over and they're like, oh my gosh. And so they spread the word, and then the whole thing becomes like a huge success, because we get inundated with like fans. People come, they like talk about how like, oh, my daughter was in a coma and like, she heard your music and it helped her recover. And a lot of like someone's cat came back to life or some crazy shit. Like there's a whole bunch of wild stuff just listening to her song. And so by the end of the whole meet and greet, Noise is extremely exhausted, right? And she's kind of an introvert, it seems. So she's like, oh man, I haven't spent this much time like talking to people or doing anything. So it was like a crazy event for me. And she's completely exhausted when it's all said and done. So at that point, she had some more belief in us and our like ridiculous nonsense that we come up with, because it seemed to work. Like it seemed to do very well for her image and whatnot. So then our next idea is let's do a pop-up concert next. And a pop-up concert, we're just gonna like a couple hours before we do it, we're just gonna be like, hey, we're gonna do a concert here at this area, so show up. So we talk about that for a little bit. We decide we're gonna do it over in the Royal Road, and just we as the manager are gonna make a bunch of pamphlets and spread them out about 3 hours beforehand, and then we do it. So we go and throw the pamphlets out, and we meet up with her like a couple hours before this thing's supposed to take off, and she's looking at the pamphlet and she notices that we put in there that she's going to sing a new song. And she's like, the fuck, I don't have a new song. And we're like, we believe in you, kiddo. And she's like, go fuck yourself. And she gets super mad, but then she's like, fuck it, I'm just going to like pull up my bootstraps or whatever and figure it out. So she spends 2 hours trying to get that song together. A bit later, let's see. Oh shoot, I flipped ahead too much. Oh yeah, so over at the Royal Road, everyone's in the audience waiting, and she comes up and she sings Diva and like crushes it, and everyone's like super excited. And then she's about to sing her new song, and she starts to get a little nervous and is like stumbling a little bit. And so then we're like, we start like a big cheer for her because we're out in the crowd and whatnot. And then once everyone's cheering her for her, she gets her confidence back and she sings a new song. And then we skip ahead later. She's back on like a talk show again, and they're talking about how the new song, My Wonder is the name, is like a huge hit, and it's even bigger than Diva was before, and that people are going crazy for it and all this stuff. And like, well, what was your inspiration? And she's like, well, somebody inspired me and pushed me to do that. And then we kind of like take a step out of that, and we're with Noise watching the show, and she's talking about how like she was super upset, but kind of like forcing her to like do something and kind of like perform got her out of her funk, and now she feels like super juiced up with her creativity. So not only is she she's saying she wrote this song, but she's like written a whole album worth of songs. She's going to record them all and then put on like a real concert with like a full playlist and whatnot, which is not something she could have done before. So she's super grateful. And then she like turns back to the TV, notices the conversation turned to something, gets embarrassed, gets up and leaves, like runs away. And then we look at the TV. And we see on the TV that the host is talking to Noise about like what inspired the song. And she talks about it's inspired by somebody I love. Oh, who could that possibly be? Delightful. So that whole thing was pretty cute, not gonna lie. But that's the end of her Bond story. So next up is First Affection. First Affection is one of these like mini stories they create. I think this is the first. Well, New Year's is kind of the first one with Shifty, but this is like a more canon thing. So every year, Shift Up does a popularity poll, and from the popularity poll, they make like they do these $60 gotcha skins. Anyway, the popularity poll, you get one of these like super special skins, which changes like the burst animation and everything, but it's free for everybody, which is super nice of them. So the first year it was Modernia, then it was Red Hood, and then it was Rappy Red Hood. So that's what this story is. They're pretty short. You like wander around the arc, and it's kind of like a favorite item story, which with the favorite items, what happens is when you unlock it, you have to like wander around and have like the extra story instead of just all doing it through the Bond menu. But so Modernia, or Marion, as I don't know what they called her, Modernia. I guess that's what she was originally with the heretic thing. But in every story they mention her as Marion. So I don't know. It's kind of funny. Anyway, one day the commander, are cleaning our room after a canceled mission, and we find a rumpled shirt on the ground, and this reminds us of a previous event, which started the exact same way. So going back to between, let's see, I think it's before chapter 14, I want to say, of the main story, because I think that's when we took her away, but definitely, 14, it was before 14. So sometime after the Bond story, after 13, so the order of events, which I probably should have done better, was you had chapter 13 where we rescued Marion and converted her back to stop being a heretic, and then we had the Bond story, and then we have this, and then we have chapter 14, and then 14.5, and then there's an anniversary event. I'm trying to remember what it's called, and that's like the story of Marion after her death in like chapter 2 or 3. Anyway, so as we're same concept in the past, with a canceled mission, a rumpled shirt, we get a call from Polly. She's like, hey, can you come over here to the police station like ASAP? And we're like, sure. So we head over there, and as soon as we walk in, we're like, oh Jesus, this horrible smell, what is going on? And then Polly rolls up with Miranda and is like, oh hey, yeah, Mighty Tools hit a pipe nearby. They're gonna get it fixed, don't worry about that, but that's not the real problem. The real problem is, and then ... and then Marion's like, Commander, are you there? So we find her, and she's covered in ooze and goo. And Polly's like, yeah, for some reason she swam around in the disgusting sludge and then wandered around the outpost. And so it's time to pick her up and arrest her, because people were complaining, like, what the fuck? And we're like, oh, sorry, guys, we'll take her back and get her clean. Don't worry about it. And then Marion's like, we're ready to go. And then she just like breaks out of the cell, like without any issue whatsoever. And then Polly's like, well, good luck paying for that. It's kind of like hard to do. Anyway, so we return, and the counter's like, oh Jesus, what the heck is that smell? And we tell them what's going on, and so they like drag her over to the showers and are cleaning her up, and we just like stand outside listening to them, like, oh Marion, what are you doing? Oh my gosh. And they're like, oh, your clothes are ruined, we need to get you something else. And so they yell at us to run back and get some clothes. Unfortunately, she has no spare clothes at this juncture. So we get Rappy, Neon, and Iron's clothes, but none of them fit. Rappy and Neon's are too small, and Iron's are too big. Mostly in the chest. Excellent. So instead, they're like, oh, just get us a shirt or something, Lord. And so we get her like a shirt that we normally wear at like a fancy event, so it's like a button-up shirt, right? And this is all an excuse to be like, here's a sexy costume for this woman that everyone loves so much. So I think she won the popularity poll, and it's pretty hot, not gonna lie. And it's very revealing, so we need to get a doll, right? Like the dolls we use to, what is that system called? So you can give, I don't know if I brought this up, but another way to like level up your Nikkes is that you give them a doll of you, and dependent on their weapon choice, changes the type of weapon, the type of doll they want. That's gonna, it has to match. And then you can like maintain it. It just means you like clean it or whatever, and the more you clean it, the higher levels it goes, and you can max out with like level 15 SR, unless it's a favorite item, then it can go up
to like the favorite item. Anyway, so we're like, at this juncture, supposedly these dolls don't exist. This is where it's the origins. It's not just a Marion story to get like a sexy costume. It's also the origin story of these dolls, which is helpful, I guess. And so, yeah, so they're like, hey, just get a doll or something so she can cover up a little bit because this outfit is pretty revealing. And we're like, okay. And then Marion's like, I want a doll of you. And we're like, okie dokie. So we head out. We think about it for a little bit, and then we head over to the Balurta and Mika down at the toy store. We asked them about a doll that looks just like us, and it just so happens that they have one. And it's like, what? Why would you have that? And she's like, oh, we a bunch of Nikkes pulled their money together, and like we ordered like a whole batch of them so that we could have them. And they're like, it's like, what the fuck? It's like, okay. Can we get one, please? And they're like, you want a doll of yourself? That's weird. It's like, it's also weird that you made a doll of me. Oh, man. So we take it, we head it back. Marion loves it. Again, like her outfit is fan-freaking-tastic. And then Ainz is like, oh, they got the dolls in already? And Han's like, what are you talking about? And she says something, she like whispers under her breath that she's an original backer and that she should have one. And Han's like, the fuck are you saying? And Ainz is like, nothing, don't worry about it. And then Neon's like, well, this is so nice that we have this time just to relax because the mission got called and we don't have anything else to do. And then Ainz like, don't jinx it. And then ring, ring, ring. Yep, mission time. And then Ainz is like, no. So we head up to the surface. And of course, Marion comes with us because she's part of the squad at this point, even though she's just wearing like a shirt. But whatever. It's honestly, it doesn't matter. Her skin is like the actual armor. So fuck it. She could be naked for all anyone cares. And we talk about her decency, I guess, a little bit, and being up here. And then Rappy and the commander both agree that, like, well, there's nothing to be done about it because she would have come up anyway. And she is an essential member and helps us destroy things, right? Because she's 1,000 times over the most powerful character until Rappy has, like, her conversion later on in life. Anyway, so we fight. Afterwards, Marion's very upset because the clothes that we gave her, the shirt doesn't smell like us anymore. And then Ainz and Neon, and she starts crying about it. And then Ainz and Neon like, oh, you're a silly girl, here. And they grab her and bring her over and we give her a big hug. And she's like, look, you can have the real article anytime you want. You don't need those stinky old clothes. And she's like, yay. And it's all very sweet and whatnot. And then we head back to the present as we're holding the shirt. And we're just thinking about Marion and hoping that she's okay and hoping that someday we can see her again and that we can all hang out. And then elsewhere, we have Marion in the present. She's just standing in a field of flowers, staring off blankly, thinking about the commander and everything that occurred. When Chime rolls up, yay, Chime. Excellent. She's like, it's time for dinner. Crown's been waiting very patiently, and she's drooling. Those two. So they meander back to the castle. Crown and Chime chit-chat, just kind of like hilarity ensues kind of stuff. And then Marion's like, all right, time for dinner. Here's booze, here's grubs, and this is all, these grubs look like the thing in the naughty book that Rapunzel always gave me. And Crown and Chime are like, what the fuck? Like, those fucking pioneers, man, they're crazy. And then we kind of fades out from there, from like that hijinks event. And Marion's just thinking about how she was so mad and hated us, the commander, at first when we first kind of like abandoned her. But now she understands what we did, and when she thinks about all the stuff with the counters and everything, it's like the happiest time for her, and that she's starting to find a little bit of that happiness now with Chime and Crown, and that hopefully she can be happy again someday. And she hopes that we're thinking about her and that someday we can be together again. And that ends the story. So let's wrap up and finally deal with Modernia's Bond story, because again, it's her. She's not Marion in the, like, when you choose her on your team. Modernia is just Marion, and this is definitely Marion because it takes place, again, this takes place like right after chapter 13 when we get her, and we have to like teach her how to like speak and do everything else. So at this point, again, Marion is not speaking. Ainz and the rest of the counters are trying real hard, but no good. Nothing's working out. So then, okay, we'll try. Real bad. Real bad job. We do. So we decide we all need to become official educators so we can now know actually how to help her talk and work on that. So I guess we do that because then the teaching starts to go very well. Very, very, very well. So like, Rappy teaches us some stuff, Ainz teaches us some stuff, Neon teaches us some stuff. We are not very good at teaching her anything, but we all spend like, about 15 days later, roughly, so a couple of weeks, she's like speaking. She's very childlike in the way she thinks and interacts with things at this juncture, but she can like have conversations. She can like discuss things with her and whatnot, and things are going pretty well. And then we get a call from Ingrid, and she wants a status report and everything. So she comes over, we talk about everything that's going on, and she's super impressed. She's like, oh, she learned all that stuff in like 15 days. That's incredible. I want to do a medical check on her. And we're like, I don't know. But she says she'll make sure she's safe. So we take Marion over to the examination room, and we all have to convince her to go get like the shots and whatnot and everything she needs. So after some cajoling, she heads in for that. And then a little bit later, she's like having a snack that she was promised by Ingrid to do all the experiments. And Ingrid's like, I couldn't get anything done. Like the needle wouldn't go inside. We couldn't get like a skin sample. X-rays don't work. And then she's like, she kind of jokes about like, well, the only thing that's going to help is like a laser dissection. It's like, Jesus. At that point, we're all trying to figure out what to do. And like, we're all, the mood, I guess, has come down a bit because Marion comes in and she gets like very concerned. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. I should have shared my snack. And then she starts crying because again, she's like a 5-year-old. And because she feels like she did something wrong. And then we talked to her a little bit about that. And then she reveals that she was resisting the testing the whole time and that she could have easily like let Ingrid do some of these tests, but she didn't want to. So she apologizes and says she'll let her do it this time. And then something about like how the shots and everything are going to be good for her and they're going to keep her healthy and strong so that we can have a good time together. And she's like, okay. So she does it for real. And then we all head out. And later on, Ingrid calls. She's like, I need you back here by yourself right now. And so we head back. And then she takes us to MMR with Missilis. Wait, is it MMR? Anyway. Where Amanda and Ether tell us how her skin like reacts, right? So she can like make it soft, but she can also make it exceedingly hard, like harder than like any Nikke armor or anything. And that it's because it's like a kind of hybrid of like because again she's a hybrid of a Nikke and a Rapture. That's what these heretics are. And this thing comes up, and it came up in the story before, how like if they could just figure out how some of this stuff works, like if they could dissect her essentially, then they could advance the ARC technology by like 100 years. And then as they are, right before they can continue with that line of thinking, Ingrid like shuts it down. She's like, burn it all down. No one in this room is allowed to talk about this with anybody. We're done with this. This is like a dangerous topic, and this could cause a lot of problems. So we're done. And she's like, you better get out of here. And so we head back over to the outpost, and we find that Ingrid had given her a bunch of chocolate because she was so willing to cooperate and whatnot. And then she's eaten most of it at this point. She saves some for us, though, which is fun because she feeds us. And then later on, like all these Bond stories are like 5 episodes. And so episode 5 of this is just like shenanigans. It's just like she like teases Ions and then plays a trick on her, and then Ions chases her around. And then later on, like Neon is teaching her to cook, and they like burn something because of firepower and whatnot. And then at some point, we're just kind of like hanging out, and she's like, hey, what would you have done if I hadn't pulled that trigger and killed myself? And then everyone's like, oh, fuck, she remembers that. And then finally we were like, I don't know what we would have done. But all I know is that I really didn't want to kill you because I like being with you. And then the counters agree, and they're happy that the whole situation occurred and that they're able to be together now and spend time and enjoy each other's company and whatnot. And she's like, well, what would you do in the future if you had to do it again? And Arapi's like, well, it would never happen again. We're never going to have to worry about it. And she's like, okay, that's great. And then she's like, I love you guys. You're the best. And that's the end. So go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys later.